Good day, fellow adventurer, and welcome. My name is CEO Matt, and today I will be doing my 8th Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster class overview. In this episode, we're covering the final player core class, the Druid. I'm going to try to keep these videos to about 10 to 12 minutes in length, so please bear with me if I don't cover everything on all the slides. The remaster only slightly touched upon the Druid's proficiencies. Most notably, they can now don metal armor, thanks to the recent discovery of the plane of metal, courtesy of Rage of Elements. Additionally, instead of simply gaining animal empathy at first level, druids can select between animal or plant empathy, allowing them to tailor their build to the campaign they believe they will find themselves in. The druid also gets a plethora of new feats to choose from based on their druidic order, further differentiating the 4 orders present in Player Core 1. The druid's proficiencies look deceptively weak on paper. With only 8 HP in training and perception, fortitude and reflex saves, simple weapons, and light and medium armor, their base kit seems a bit lacking. However, with wisdom as their key ability stat, their perception is on par with, or maybe even above those with expert proficiency at level 1, and their expert will save is enormous. Now having access to metal armor gives them a few more options in the defense department as well, so having a high dexterity isn't exactly necessary for druids. Unfortunately, what isn't deceptively lacking is their number of starting skills. At only 4 plus their background, druids will struggle in this department. In terms of roles, their primary role outside of combat will be Scout. With access to Untamed Form as a focus spell, through the Untamed Order or via Order Explorer, they can effortlessly scout ahead using a variety of forms available to them. In combat, the Druid is a controller, using battlefield-affecting spells to put their allies in an advantageous position, and splitting off enemies to prevent them from effectively working together. The primal spell list is quite diverse, and the Druid has a few secondary roles to fall back on, namely Support and Blaster. The primal spell list does receive Heal and some other good support tools, though long-term buffs like Heroism are not to be found. Blasting is a good backup for the Druid, as they receive excellent damage-dealing spells in the form of Fireball and Chain Lightning. Finally, through the battle forms presented in Untamed form, the Druid can also be a decent striker. This being said, do be aware that they cannot cast spells while in polymorph form. The Druid has no inclination to spec into Intelligence or Charisma, and as a result, the Face and Librarian role should be avoided. This is also considering the fact that they receive animal or plant empathy. They simply receive too few skills trained in order to effectively make use of diplomacy. Most spellcasters gain all of their class features at first level, and the Druid is no exception. The Druid's choice of subclass is their Druidic order, their specialty within the Druid circles they inhabit. This provides you with a first level Druid feat, as well as an order spell and a trained skill. Druids also gain the choice of animal empathy or plant empathy, allowing them to use diplomacy to make requests from animals or plants, respectively, and the Wild Song language, a language specific to Druids. Finally, all Druids gain a set of Anathema, when, if broken, forces them to forfeit their spellcasting powers. These Anathema include despoiling natural places, consuming more natural resources than necessary, and teaching Wild Song to non-Druids. Additionally, your order has its own Anathema that you will also need to adhere to. From there, the Druid receives only one more class feature, Primal Hierophant, giving them a single 10th rank spell slot at 19th level. In Player Core 1, the Druid has 4 orders to choose from. Orders come with a trained skill, first level Druid feat, an order spell, which is a type of focus spell, and Anathema. The Animal Order gives the Druid training in Athletics and the Animal Companion feat, giving them a young animal companion and access to many companion-related feats down the line. They also gain the Heal Animal Order spell, allowing you to heal your companion without needing to expend a spell slot. The Leaf Order provides the Druid with training in Diplomacy and the Leshy Familiar feat, giving them 2 familiar traits as well as either the Plant or Fungus familiar ability at no cost. They also gain the Cornucopia Order spell, allowing them to provide healing and nourishment to the rest of their party. The Storm Order gives the Druid training in Acrobatics, as well as the Stormborn feat, allowing them to ignore circumstance penalties to range spell attacks and perception checks caused by weather, and also ignoring flat checks versus targets concealed by weather. Their order spell, Tempest Surge, deals a lot of damage for a focus spell, and also inflicts Clumsy 2 on a failure. Finally, the Untamed Order might be the most unique order and is also my personal favorite, somehow above the Animal Order. They are trained in Intimidation, and also gain the Untamed Form Druid feat, giving them the Untamed Form order spell. Their order spell, Untamed Shift, is a morph spell that gives you an unarmed attack and possibly more, depending on what other shapes you have. This order is quite nice to have since you get to start play with 2 focus points and opens up a lot of options down the line with other forms. Evaluated at level 20, the Druid's advancement is not more impressive than other casters, but evaluated at 10, this is a completely different story. The Druid's perception increases to Expert at 3rd level, giving them the strongest perception modifier until classes like the Rogue and Ranger catch up at 7th level. Likewise, their Fortitude and Reflex saves increase to Expert at 3rd and 5th, progressing much quicker than the Cleric and Wizard do. Their will save increases to Master at 11th, which is perfectly reasonable, as do their weapon proficiencies. Armor and weapon specialization follow suit at 13th level, and as per all casters, they gain their spellcasting proficiency increases at 7th, 15th, and 19th level. The Druid's class feats are very good. There are a lot of options ranging from additional spells on your list to powerful spell shapes. I'm going to give the rundown of my favorites. If you took the Untamed Order, there are plenty of additional shape feats that expand the number of forms you can take on. Soaring Shape is one of those, giving you a fly speed of 30 at 8th level. Do be aware that you will need to spend 2 actions on your focus spell rather than 1. For those of you who did not take Untamed Order, the Order Explorer and Order Magic feats are great ways to expand your repertoire and gain access to additional abilities. Almost all of the Order Magic focus spells are fantastic, and you can't go wrong with any of them. Those who selected the Animal Order will certainly want the feats that improve their companion stats and abilities, and Primal Howl is a new feat that deals sonic damage and can frighten creatures, friend and foe alike sadly, on a failed save. Fey Caller is a great way to gain some much desired illusion spells onto your spell list, and finally, spell shapes are quite unique on this class list, and ones like Garland Spell, which creates difficult terrain and damages those foolish enough to step into said area, can add a lot of variety and power to your spells. Speaking of spells, the Primal spell list is chock full of excellent ones, so it's important to have an eclectic mix. Control spells are a must-have, as you gain plenty early and often. Wall spells can be great at shutting down foes that have to wade through them or try to break through, costing them valuable actions. The Druid does not receive as many spell slots as the Wizard, but they should still keep a few blasts on hand. Try to cover different damage types if you don't know what kind of enemies you're up against, or stack up on 1 or 2 types if you do. Mobility spells are great ways to get climb, swim, and fly speeds, while the rare debuffs can be game changers if used properly. Of course, you will always fall back on cantrips, so I've listed a few go-tos that should help. That being said, you should always prepare for what's ahead if you can, rather than just auto-pick your old reliables. The Druid is pretty self-sufficient and does not necessarily need to archetype out to pick up class feats. However, here are a few you might want to consider if you are playing with free archetype. For scouting, both the Scout and Horizon Walker dedications are natural picks, but for those wanting a higher perception modifier, both the Rogue and Overwatch dedications have a 12th level feat which can make you a master in perception. For support-type druids, the Medic and Cleric dedications are both fantastic thanks to your high wisdom score and inclination to take medicine. The former provides you with excellent feats such as Doctor's Visitation and Resuscitate, while the latter gives you additional spell slots to spend on buffing and healing. Like with the Ranger, the Druid benefits significantly from having an animal companion. In this case, a mount would serve them well to increase their battlefield mobility. Howl of the Wild also gives the players flying mounts at later levels, which could be a massive boon. From the Beastmaster dedication, Bestial Protection, once again, you're welcome, is the key feat here, providing a debuff on any enemy that tries to attack you in melee while on your mount. Enlarged Companion is a fantastic follow-up feat here, allowing your companion to grow to huge and give it extra reach to boot. In Exploration mode, the Druid will most likely want to scout in open areas where they can use Untamed Form, if they have access to that focus spell. If not, scouting is still fine, though searching or repeating a spell might be viable alternatives. Downtime mode is where the Druid begins to struggle, as did the Ranger. The Druid receives even fewer skills trained than the Ranger, and fitting in crafting or performance to earn income is most likely not happening. Leaf Druids are trained in diplomacy and could gather information, but this area of play is certainly the weakest for the Druid. Encounter mode, on the other hand, is a bit more straightforward for the Druid, though it should be noted that you have plenty of options here. Personally, I would start off with a battlefield control spell like Grease or Wall of Stone to set the tone of the battle and to get the enemies on their back foot early. I would then follow up with Blasts or command my animal companion into battle and start striking. In case I need more mobility, I could always cast something like Fly to help deal with aerial opponents. The first build presented uses an animal companion as a secondary damage source or as a mount to gain enhanced mobility in and out of combat. The spells that this build should prepare are offensive in nature to provide additional damage and control, with Runic Fang being used as a nice buff for their companion. This is the support Druid, having plenty of healing for their teammates. The Fruit Leshy is great to use alongside Cornucopia, as you will have a steady supply of fresh berries to dole out to the rest of your team. There's a slight investment into Charisma here in order to bolster their diplomacy score when using Plant Empathy. The Storm Druid slots naturally into being a blaster and will focus on dealing damage using their cantrips, order spell, and prepared spells. The Reach spell shape feat is essential in order to stay as far back as possible when delivering destruction. Finally, the Untamed build will be using their focus spells early and often. Pest Form can be useful at early levels in order to get in and out of places unnoticed, and at later levels, advanced forms such as Soaring Shape and Ferocious Shape can be useful too. This build focuses on strength thanks to now being able to wear metal armor, and can wade in and out of melee combat while still casting spells. To summarize, the Druid remains the powerhouse of a caster it once was prior to the remaster, and retains its rating of A+. Its versatility, courtesy of its base proficiencies, primal spellcasting, and casting off their wisdom stat all make for a dangerous threat on the battlefield. 8 HP and medium armor can make druids tricky to remove from a fight, compounded with their additional forms of movement courtesy of Untamed Form. Their battlefield control spells can really shake up an encounter, and clever use of these spells can make a severe encounter trivial. However, that isn't to say that the Druid is a perfect class, as it is far from it. Their spell list lacks consistent debuffing options outside of Slow and Fear, and can be hard to truly act as a team player in certain scenarios. That being said, their ability to target weaknesses with the plethora of blasts they have at their disposal will be a reliable avenue of play. Druids still make for decent supports with the medic dedication or spending multiple spell slots on heal, but that should not be their primary role in combat. Finally, Druids can make for okay strikers when using Untamed Form via their focus pool, but I believe these spells are best used outside of combat for scouting, something they excel at. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for additional content. Feel free to check out the slides in the description below. This concludes my Beginner's Guide series on Pathfinder player core classes, so if you made it this far, congrats! I plan on making fortnightly videos on the Remaster classes in Player Core 2 this summer. And of course, have a great day.